podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Cardiff Central Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Cardiff Central Podcast. It's me, Harley, and as ever, I'm joined by Carwyn. How you doing, Carwyn?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. A bit tired today, but yeah, it's at least only the 2 pods I'm doing this week rather than the 3 of last.
Yeah, it was. I have done marathon sessions like you before, and it is not fun. Anyway,
we were going to record this last night, I should say, as well. And I did realise that would have been my 4th pod of the week, and I was like, "Oh God, no!"
I count it as a new one. So yeah, yeah. Anyway, just a friendly reminder that we are available wherever you get good podcast form, or if you want to see Carwyn's lovely mug and mine, you can also watch this in visual format on YouTube. Please wherever we do give us a like, subscribe, leave reviews. You can also message us on the Facebook page Cardiff Central Pod, or at Cardiff_Central on X. Allegedly there's an Instagram as well, but I have no idea what to do with it because I'm a 98-year-old man in a 31-year-old's body. Anyway, so Carwyn, did you get up to anything? Get to go see some nice rugby this week, or shall I go on? Or shall I talk about my rugby experience?
So I watched all my rugby from the comfort of my sofa. I had the most lazy weekend known to man, and I loved every second of it. But that was because me and my partner also loves rugby, and I was very lucky that she wanted a lazy weekend. And I just said, "Oh, do you want to get a pizza in and just sit in front of the TV for 10 hours? Yeah, sounds good. Perfect."
I love weekends like that. My wife is my wife can be quite amenable to it just purely because she likes snuggling. She doesn't necessarily want to watch rugby, although now Lee Halfpenny's retired, she has found a new bum to follow. Though I did point out now that it's a bit creepy now you're the older woman, and it's not like. And so she is fallen in love with the rear end of Tommy Lewis. So we went to go see the Exeter Scarlets game on the weekend. Oh, and it did help for most of it. For most of that first half, he was basically stood in front of us, not having to do all that much. So when he was involved, he was very good. But hell of a tackle, but he should never have had to make it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I mean, this isn't a Scarlets pod, so we won't go into too much detail. But I said on the wrap, pretty much every issue anyone's had with Scarlets this season came to the fore. Plenty of injuries, plenty of scrums going backwards, woeful defence, and not really getting anywhere in attack. I mean, the 3 tries they did get were all right, but I mean, the 6 or so they let in was far softer. Anyway, yes. So that put me in a fantastic mood to talk about the game we're actually going to normally talk about, which is Wales versus England. So we went another narrow loss, which is something I think we're getting a bit of deja vu here at Cardiff Pod, saying another losing point, bonus point in a game where we probably should have won.
Yes. And I think I said to you just before we start this pod, I was going to start with the positives, but you've almost set me up for the negatives, which it just seems a little bit too, and I wish I could come up with a better word as a working journalist, but Cardiffy, because all this season it's been talk of not taking advantage of first half opportunities and then not being able to see out the game in the second half and possibly ruining those first half opportunities. And that's been a Cardiff theme. I think it's smack bang exactly what happened in this game. I'll start with the positive because there were so many, and I am going to start with the Cardiff players because this is the Cardiff pod, but also I felt a few of them did particularly stand out. Cam Winnett was to the manner born. His outside to in break on I can't remember whose pass it was actually. Was it Johan or was it Tompkins? I can't remember, but coming off from an outside to in to break the line to set up Josh Adams's break was brilliant. He also looked really good into the high ball, competing against, as said last week, in my opinion, the best catcher a ball in world rugby at the moment. I think I said of all time, but he did drop one, so maybe not of all time. In Freddie Stewart, and then you also, I thought Alex Mann was superb in the first half, especially. He got that credit. Maybe ran out of gas a bit in the second, and that's why we saw him withdrawn. But I thought, yeah, he's going to be, as some people said on social media, a real rock star. I saw that tweeted by a certain ex-international. I can't remember who that was, but I want to say it might be an Andy Powell, but I might be wrong. But also Warren Gatland was full of praise for him. Thomas as well, first half especially, I thought he was superb. Maybe it would be he was almost there for the inside for Josh's pass if Josh could have got that pass away. But and maybe
I don't know. It would have been a hell of a pass for that to get through, because there was a lot of marking. I think the chip and chase is probably the best option for that one.
Maybe I'm slightly on the fence of thinking if Gareth Davies was there, I think Gareth Davies would have made it closer to Josh Adams so that he takes George Ford out of it, rather than being separated by George Ford, which, by the way, as a bit of defensive play, incredible from George Ford. And I don't think that was given enough praise, because it was brilliant work rate to get back there. And
better than his defensive play towards the end. But that's better than that bit of defensive play where he just walks into Rio Dyer in the air.
Yes, yeah, they were.
But that's just me being incredibly salty. That tweet I retweeted a clip of that, and that went a lot bigger than I thought. I even had likes from Malachi Fekitoa, and I woke up the next morning thinking this was just something I angrily said was like several siders and a run deep.
Yeah,
this was not meant to be serious.
I personally agree. I think that is a penalty. I don't think it's meant anything more than a penalty, but I think it's a penalty. There was one a bit earlier which I thought was a penalty, which was clear interference for me of Chesham on Beard in the line out. And I know Elias got a lot of stick for his line out, but I thought there was one that was not straight, which I thought was one that was lost. That was because Beard was interfered with in the air, that was deemed shoulder to shoulder, which I didn't realise was a thing in a line out. I thought that was interference, but I learned a lot of new laws over the weekend thanks to various referees. But I think there were so many positives in that first half. I thought fair play. Gareth Thomas played really well back. Kieran Azarati was superb, and you add in Tommy and Wainwright. Tommy, like I'm the biggest fan of Jack Morgan you'll meet, but I'm almost now having to think, oh God, did Jack Morgan make this 15 if he's back? Because I personally am not a big fan of the two of them working concurrently at the moment. I think it doesn't really work the game plan. So
if we make a little just tangent on that, because we didn't really focus on the wrap, and I do want to give my 2 cents on this, because obviously Shanks went on the on Scrum 5 and said, "Oh, you've got to get both of them in the team," and I went, "Actually, I don't think you do. I think that game against Argentina, when it was working, when you had Jaco Piper, is a very specific set of circumstances, because it's a referee who will let you get away with a lot more on the breakdown. You don't need the clean. We do need that proper 6." And Gatland even said he thinks we missed out on a line-out option. And I think Alex Mann has come in. He's probably not got the bulk and the engine just yet to be in and out 60 minutes, 80 minutes every game. But he's got development, and you can see he's probably going to do it. And the fact is that he probably will put on a little bit of bulk. But if he can keep his footwork as well, that's going to be one hell of a destructive carrier. He's into the line out, and I think his tackling, and actually I think overall I feel like Wilder's tackling, they were chopping the English players so low that it gave Raffle quite a lot of opportunity. And same thing, it's given him the options. And I think sometimes when we've gone for the dual open side, we haven't had that person to take them down. So basically you waste them. So I mean, for me, I'd have. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having 2 fantastic open sides and one of them being on the bench. That is a perfect, people, as much as people say, oh, it's a 23-man game, it doesn't, because everyone's always talking about their 50s. It's never their 23. And, and everyone always sees the bench as a lesser role. And I think you've got to think, I think one of the best players in world rugby at the moment is Quagga Smith. And his specific role is coming on and being an impact player on the bench. Whether that's at 6, 7, 8, or if they chuck him in on the wing, just accept. We have found a really nice balance in that back row. In fact, actually, I think that whole pack has a really nice balance to it. And actually, I feel like we lost that balance when Alex Mann came off. And I agree with you, Carwyn. He probably was off his out of it then, so he needed to come off. I don't think Basham had that same role there as a 6. For me, I feel like he's more of an 8 in the way that we want to play. And I wouldn't put him ahead of, but I wouldn't put him in ahead of Wainwright necessarily. And
I think that the fact of the matter is, in that back row, we are missing, well, one, factually, we are missing a Faletau and a Tane Plumtree, those sort of agile players who could, well, Faletau, by virtue of moving Wainwright across, could fill in as a 6 as well and have that option as an extra bulk option off the bench, especially if Jack's not available. But additionally, you've got maybe then a Christ Jones, but I do think there needs to be. I think Gatland is still looking for his tough nut 6, and that's nothing against Alex Mann. Like, again, another player I've praised to the hilt, but Gatland did note that he's maybe a bit small and is worried about that. But I just thought Mann was brilliant. It's not just the support line; it's his tackling, as you mentioned, the chopping down. That's one of the reasons Tommy's getting in there, along with the fact that he is an extraordinarily good player in the breakdown area, and I loved his work. I absolutely loved it. I loved every second of it, especially in that first half. But look, I suppose I've talked about the positives, which were some individual performances. But can we talk about some negatives? Because I think there were plenty, weren't there? Especially in that 10-minute period, which I know you've had a rant about on the wrap, but in that period after Chesham's yellow card to Roots' yellow card, and then post Roots' yellow card especially. First and foremost, I didn't personally think Chesham's yellow card was a yellow card. I thought it was just a penalty. I thought it was a bit harsh, but that's by the by. And then you go into Roots' yellow card, which again I thought was a brave call, but I'm quite glad that if that's given every week, I like that call. It is cynical play. And then the idea was right. The execution was just really stupid. And I can't phrase it any better than that, because the kickoff is taken. It needed to have a midfield carry before it went wide, because of the fact you needed to draw in the 6 forwards that England had. They were down 2 forwards, not 2 backs. So Wales went wide quite early, and then Johan's trying to chop back onto the blind side, but gets caught in the position of being behind the ruck at the time where the pass is given. That's a moment of, he either needs to make that call earlier, or needs to say, right, take it one more hit up, and then I'll make that call on the next phase. I'll be ready to make the call a bit earlier and be aware of it. He spotted the correct thing. There was an overlap if he could have got away from Itoje, but he didn't get away from Itoje. Then there's a turnover. Then there's we've given Alex Mann heaps of praise on this pod. Let's say he's got some work on. So he should have made that tackle on Ben Earl. That's factual. As should win it, and Johan should do a better job behind him as well. But the first protocol needs to be Mann making that tackle.
You think the problem with that is, sorry, I was having a look at that, because Mann is having to push in that scrum, which we should not have. We're down a second row and a 6, and Sam Underhill, everything he's good at, he's not that big. He's not a big bit of bulk. That is something we should really have attacked and should have gotten more without. And then Mann should have been free then to come up ready for the pickup off the base, because that is what it's going to be. Like, I think if you look 99 times out of 100, you're going to go for an 8 pick off the base, purely because you're going at you're going to try and catch the flanker slow, and then you're probably taking out the 10, maybe the 12 as well, and that's a quick phase for you to come round. I mean, again, it's too much dicking about. I made a rant on the wrap about that. 20 was it? It was 20 minutes, I think. No, I think it worked out as like 17, 18 minutes of play from Chesham's yellow card, and like everything that's happened. I might actually post a screenshot of it onto the wrap in the central pods as well, just so people can see. But there's just too many things where we didn't do the smart call. If we had a Dan Bigger, or you had an Anscombe, or you had a season 10, they'd have been telling Thomas Williams, no, we get that ball up the field first. And let's move. And then there was that penalty just before Roots comes on, and we just conceded a try. Momentum had sort of swung. We had a chance to wrestle it back by going for the post, and we went to the corner and then cocked up the line-out move and ends up going forward.
Yeah, the driving line-out was, okay, we got a penalty try from it, but apart from that, it was poor, wasn't it? Let's be honest about the structure. It wasn't working. They were getting beaten in the middle, and also you saw they allowed England players to get around the sides and then get their bodies in the way while remaining bound-ish, but primarily remaining bound, to be fair, and getting in the way. But I personally, I didn't disagree with the decision of running it off the back of the yellow card, of the second yellow card. I just disagreed with the execution. I think if it's Ireland run that, but they run it in a sensible way.
I think they boot it to low, and then they'll target the line out. Especially chosen people, they're big line out guys.
But my counter to that is Wales win very few lineouts, whereas Ireland do turn over quite a few. So I don't disagree with the call. I just disagree with the execution. I think the execution needed to be drawing more defenders through taking it tight. One phase off Wainwright or whoever carried the ball. I think it was Wainwright carried the ball in, and then find a way to go wide. But it was just the execution of both those phases following the Wainwright one was so poor that it just didn't work. My other main point is someone explained to me why George North doesn't carry the ball a lot more, because when he did, he was brilliant. So please give the ball to North. And I know that sounds like we're harking back to 2013, 14, but he is our best ball carrier when you don't have a Mason Grady in the back line. So give him the ball. Don't let Tompkins chuck it up into Cunningham South all the time, or whoever is going to hold him up in the tackle. Get North chucking it up and beating defenders left, right, and centre, because he was brilliant. And I know there's the counter to that of then you've got the surprise element of North to carry it in the wider channels where he can possibly be more destructive. But I think he's so destructive as a first carrier that he needs to have the ball more often. And as a Tuolangi coming from outside to win 13 channel, sort of 13 line sharp angle-esque, that is what he's going to cause damage. I was going to say Difrod then, which is the Welsh word, but yeah, he's going to cause mayhem is the main point.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I said other than that, I just thought we dicked about a little bit too much. And like there were times when we got penalty advantage and things, and we went back 40 meters, and then by the time we actually get back, then it was a problem in the game against Twickenham in the summer. England got away with having let fewer players because Wales were too busy messing, they didn't make the best use of the time. It's probably what I'm getting at, and you didn't. There wasn't the effort to try and tie in that defence and make the holes. They were just trying to find them straight away. And, let's be fair, this England team have gotten very good at being a couple of players down because they like having players off for some, whether it's Tom Curry or a Frole deciding that, your face deserves a shoulder in it, or just generally being bad at their jobs. It's that. They've got a lot of experience of this now. They know how to slow that down. If you look at it, things like, they win a line out and it takes them 50 seconds to throw the ball in. Well, that's almost 10% of your thing going. George Ford tried to use every last second of that conversion. And then they don't necessarily rush back at the field. For scrums, you could see they were sort of holding it about, that free kick for Azarati going early, I think, to be honest, I think that was a bit of play, a lovely little bit of play from Marlow. I think he duped that one. But again, it just wastes that bit of time. Whereas what really I think if a more experienced player than David Jenkins might have been going to the ref and going, so they're time wasting. Can we get this up? Can we get this going? We want to play quick. We want to play quick. But even then, I'm not sure we necessarily went as quickly as we should have.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't think the intensity and the intention of the play was there and personally, if I didn't play at a high enough level when they were regular yellow card, but if I was in the team, I'd like to think every time you get that opportunity, you think every time you get a line out, you're running to that line out because you're thinking, right, come on, we got to get the opportunity to get a quick line out to get tempo on the game because they're down a player, yet stretch the defend. And I know there's part of it, which is international rugby, the most important thing is accuracy at certain times, but getting a bit of momentum, getting a bit of intensity, getting a bit of keeping that momentum as long as possible. And I found the scrums frustrating. The ref that I think it was being called was the calls were so slow. And it made a mess of the scrums. That, and I did feel likewise. I thought England played it clever and cute, and I will say got away with a couple. The resets, had they been Wales based, I think the penalty would have gone the other way. I felt there were a couple of England resets, England penalties that were given as resets, and then Wales were penalised. But hey, scrums are like in lottery at the best of times. A couple of England on the flip side, a couple of good performances from them. Ben Earl, as always. George Ford won 50-22 as a by point. It was a brilliant kick that. But yeah, it does feel like a game that was lost rather than Wales were beaten. And there's two ways to look at it, and I suppose most people who were expecting Wales to lose heavily are coming on the opinion of, well, it's a young side and this is showing progress and this is, the style of play, and there's moments in the attack that are looking positive and who I thought Wales could have beaten Scotland game one, and I thought Wales could have beaten England, but I said England by 3 last week. I don't necessarily think Wales are above par. I don't think either of those sides are that great at the moment. England aren't a great side at the moment. I worry about Ireland away in 2 weeks' time. That's going to be painful, I think. And I really would have liked to be going out to Dublin as a free hit of Wales have got 1 or 2, ideally, wins on their back and are going to Dublin just to have a go and see how it ends up. Because I think it could be a long day in the office if we're searching for wins.
I think this is going to be a real marker of where we actually are as a squad, because I think Scotland just don't seem to have that mental. We thought they had it back, but it seems they've lost it again. This sort of that mental switch just keep on in games. I know we basically did the same thing against them, but it's interesting what you said about the intensity, because I was there thinking about obviously the first half against England, the second half against Scotland. We had, for certain parts, we did have that intent and we were going for it. And I do feel like in a certain way, it does put the referee on your side and thinking, oh, these are the guys who are trying to be positive, trying to get the game going. And that's when 50-50 goals start going 60-40, 70-30 in your way. You remember that the Grand Slam game in 2019 against Ireland? We probably got away with a few because we were driving the momentum. We were the team saying, yeah, we're off. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And Ireland were just slowly falling back. And then, they were, it might have been a ball on the ground, it might have been a ruck that at the start of the game might have gone to Ireland's way, but it was going to Wales because the ref in his eye is, these are the guys trying to play. These just want to get on with the game. They don't want to be killing the ball. They don't want to be stopping things.
Yeah.
I think that did sway. I said, I do feel like I'm not saying that we necessarily would have won had we gone for the post and scored, because arguably you could say if we didn't botch that line out, that would have been 2 tries and that would have been better. But I do feel like it was almost a relief for England, because they know, I think at that point they went, we've just got to get through these next 4 or 5 minutes. We're going to be up to 15. And we've got the game man, you've got George Ford, who is an unbelievably good game manager. He's going to stick us, we will outkick them. We kicked one more time than England did. I know tactically as well, we were going more for these crossfield bombs and things.
It's the right option, I want to say.
But,
by the way, a lot of them were the right option.
But England kicked over 800 metres more than we did. And one of the trends in rugby at the moment is kicking further than your opponent, not just kicking more. It's giving you that territory. And to be honest, to a certain extent, there's a lot less error as well. If you can keep England up in their thing, their attack isn't good enough really to do anything with it. Yes, they broke us once or twice, but they're not consistent enough with that, and not enough to do damage. But when you're losing the ball in your own 22, your margin for error if you miss that tackle or if you turn the ball over, that's when you've thrown into rush decisions like the Mason Grady yellow for the deliberate knock on.
Yeah, he's too narrow there. I just wanted to put that out there. He's way too narrow. Way too
Because
narrow.
I'm presuming he's supposed to be on the wing because he came on for Josh Adams.
Yeah.
So
he's way too narrow.
I'll be honest, that's really. But then I feel like that was one where England managed to push us back, and the whole team too narrow. Because if he was wide, there's the gap in there.
But you come from out to win. You come from out to win. The position he was in, he came from out to win, but he started off too narrow. So then he got caught inside an English player, which forced him to put the hand out. And they almost had him and I think it was Tompkins marking one player. He needed to come from further out to come inside. Sorry. I just wanted to get that rant over. But yeah.
But then this is a thing with Mason. He's brilliant player, but he is only really breaking through to the team, and he's not. And I do feel like maybe he's had the luxury of Ray Lilo at 13 for most of these games for Cardiff, who is an incredibly good defender, and is I imagine he's marshalling. Whereas I think George North is being is a bit in the opposite there, where he's not necessarily the most comfortable in the 13 channel. So usually a winger is in a little bit more to cover him. And I feel like once you've got that two not top defenders, that can cause a bit of a problem there. But I mean, again,
let's be honest, you're going from Josh, who's a very good defensive winger, despite clearly he's not in the best of form. I think he'd say that himself. But you're going from one of the best defensive wingers out there to one who's slightly more inexperienced, and maybe then there needs to be more communication and that changeover, which perhaps George North isn't, or the players in that back line aren't as accustomed to doing.
Yeah,
that also probably plays a part. Anyway, but there's plenty of rants from this weekend, but that's my Wales rant, I think, over.
Yeah. Other than that, I said I thought bringing D and Azarati went off too soon. But I mean, you heard Gatlin at the end. He said he wanted to give Archie Griffin close to half an hour. I'm not sure this is a game to do. Oh, I'm not sure that was a game to do it. I think James on the Wrap brought up an interesting point, saying I don't think Gatlin wanted Archie Griffin to be playing this game at all, but obviously was forced to because of the Leon Brown injury.
I don't try and guess Gatlin's mind at the best of times, so I'm not going to try and guess into the plan.
All I feel if it's a big jump up from club rugby to international, it must be a hell of a jump from being on the bench for the Premiership Cup to Wales England at Twickenham.
Yeah, I think Azarati could have stayed on. I think Elias, like I said, I think he had a bit of a hammering and reasonably so. Even though, yes, the lineup was very successful with Deep, but as mentioned earlier, I don't think that was necessarily all Elias's fault. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and it's this position I feel us still being in several times this season, isn't it?
Yeah. Although, I mean, I did thought, if we're just going horse for courses with players off the bench, does that mean we might see Evan Lloyd, who I accidentally called Evan Daniel on the Wrap? I apologise, Carwyn. I did correct myself instantly. I got the wrong player again, yes.
My brain is... I don't know if I said this, but in work I had an interesting conversation with someone who messaged saying, "Oh, I believe there's an error in the squad anno saying that it's Evan Lloyd. It should be Evan Daniel," and then said it was Evan Lloyd, who's a fly half for Evervale. I do believe I've actually, which was me having to correct that person, which was interesting. To say no, actually there is a hooker called Evan Lloyd who has been playing every week for Cardiff, some weeks for Cardiff, I should say.
I thought, you know, mate, if we're going that horses of courses against tough opposition, why not just throw them in against Ireland? You know, they're only the best defensive line-out team. But by Gatland's logic, it's the perfect game for him to play. And I think we've done this game to death. So shall we move on to preview URC equals potentially best league if you're not a Welsh fan?
Can we talk about one other thing?
Sure.
Can we talk about offside gate? And I realise this isn't the Wales game, but the Scotland-France game. And I just wanted to get this out. That law needs to change. The law that you don't have to get a player onside and you can be standing 50 meters in front of the guy kicks the ball and be put onside by if the guy runs 5 meters needs to change because it's leading to lazy, rubbish, crap rugby where players just stand still. And that was farcical in that Scotland-France game. And I can't stress that enough. There we go. I wanted to get that rant in, and also Duan should have had a yellow card for being offside, but that was my interpretation of the law. Because as someone did point out, is that necessarily a ruck? You could interpret it; it's not, but I disagree. Just wanted to get that off my chest.
Well, based on the interpretation of the new law, thanks to Ruckgate, I believe the official thing is a ruck is formed when a player from either side is over the ball. A maul is formed when you have it's a maul if there is a player held up with a tackler and one other player from either team. And it's very rarely called as a maul for quite a while before that. So again, it's all about interpretations. It's one of the downsides of it being laws, not rules, I suppose.
Yeah,
and look, everything's so nothing's that black and white, really.
I asked the referee about it. I personally thought it was a high tackle, but I thought all seatbelt tackles were high tackles. So that was something I learned over the weekend, and maybe I was wrong about the Tommy one the week before, or the one on Tommy the week before, I should say. But yeah, I just disagree with that interpretation of the offside law from to allow Duan to play on. But that was something that frustrated me because then obviously the TMO and ref get an absolute rollicking from the Scottish fans for what happened at the end of the game, which I will say McNeese, I thought, according to his guidelines of what the decision he could make, I thought it was the only decision, as I think Nigel said, something like on commentary, Nigel Owen said, wasn't it, 90, he was probably 90% sure that's a try, but he's not 100%, and unless he's 100%, he can't overrule it. And it's as simple as that, in my opinion. But
I don't think it helps that he said he uses the word, and here it's grounded. So everyone who's listening is there saying, well, he said it's grounded. So, and then they've gone back.
Yeah.
I just wonder how many of those Scottish fans would have kicked off on France's behalf if it had been the other way around.
Oh, yeah.
I can guarantee if it meant Wales had won a game, I'd be happy for it. And if it meant Wales had lost the game, I'd be fuming.
As mentioned pre-pod, Gareth Hanscom against England at Twickenham a couple of years ago. That's all I can think of.
I can think of plenty and a lot of them in that fixture.
I can't remember who put it out, but someone said, was it the worst decision in rugby history, or worst TMO intervention in rugby history? And someone brought up the clip of Wales out in Italy back in, what was it, 2009 or 2007? 2007, I think it is, isn't it? Where
we got asked if it was enough time to kick it out and have the line out, and he said yes, and then blew it for full time.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and I thought
fuming about that
fair play. That is one of the worst. Like, I can't think of many that top that one. Jeez Louise. Anyway, but yeah. So my main point. Please, not that IRB listen. Sorry, World Rugby listen to this, but please change that law because it really does need. Because that wasn't a good look for international rugby on the weekend. Finn Russell.
If anything, I just wanted to stop hearing people moan about it.
Sorry, yeah, I'm doing what you want to stop, but it just annoyed me so much. The first time I saw it, I thought it was clever play, but on the weekend we've got Kyle Rowe jumping on the bandwagon. I was like, oh, hold on a second now. You've got a naturally his natural urgency along with Finn is the counter attack, and they're standing still. Good grief. Anyway, run over. Sorry, let's move on to things that actually pertain to this part.
Yeah. So,
Sorry,
so
Dan.
shall we preview? So we're hosting Connacht on Saturday at 5:15 kickoff. It's looking like a sellout. The North going for going faster than the others. I've made my opinion, my theory on why that is, because it's nothing to do with North Terrace being any better than it used to be. But that's by the by. I personally looking forward to this game. Unfortunately, not going to be there because I do actually have to spend time with my wife and child on the weekends because I don't see them all week. So I will be watching though. I mean, for me, this is one of my favourite fixtures in the URC. I love it when Connacht visit because one, because we usually win, and two, it's always a decent game, and I think we are, at least with some of the Connacht fans I talked on X, Twitter, whatever, we're starting to get a bit of rivalry about it. And I think it is a good potential game for that sort of rivalry. What are your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, well, first thing I was meant to be going, and now I'm actually working on the game, but not at the game. So that's so I will be watching, but virtually. Yeah, it's one of those games that has always a bit of something different about it. Like I just think of that game a couple of seasons ago, obviously where Reece and Jared get injured, and then you've got Thomas and Lloyd. Well, playing 9 and 10, switching between them, which I really enjoyed watching and playing brilliantly at it. Lloyd at 10, obviously, and Thomas goal kicking. You've then got other games going back, and it always seems to be a game with two sides that want to play rugby I hate using this, but the right way. They want to play attacking, open rugby, and the only thing I'm slightly worried about, or maybe not worried about, or is more the word I probably should use is disappointed about, is that it's come at this stage of the season when obviously Cardiff are without so many players. On the flip side, Connacht haven't lost as many. Yes, obviously they've lost Aki, who is a huge player for them. I don't know what the situation will be with Prendergast. I assume he'll be released back out to be allowed to play. Beelum obviously will be unavailable, but they do have a slight advantage in that Cardiff are obviously losing it'll likely be 6 players, give or take.
At least, let's say.
Yeah, so you're losing Domachowski, Azarati, Mann, Thomas, Josh, probably Grady. I think Teddy might be released. I don't know that for certain, but there's a possibility he might be released to be able to get some game time. Because obviously he hasn't played that much really in the last two.
I'd say Big Mac probably.
Yeah.
If they're going to release him, because I don't think we're losing too many in the back row. Teddy, I had this thought on the wrap. We're losing Dav Jenkins, Will Rowlands back to their clubs. And if Gatlin wants a 15 to train, then Teddy's on that second row, or it's going to be him or Seb.
You're right.
There's Cam. I don't think we'll get that many back. I said maybe Mason, but again, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Maybe Evan as well, Lloyd.
I'd say Evan Lloyd, but I'd say he's probably him and Thomas are two. I'd probably say it's not as bad. I think it's a big loss losing Domachowski and Azarati, basically just because of our reliance on the same 4 props. Evan Lloyd, he is that third choice behind Daniel and Belcher, and both of them are fit. And then I think, we've waxed lyrical about how well we think Ellis Bevan's been this season. Jacob Beetham will do a job at 15, but winners just means something else.
Seb will probably be released as well. Just realised. Seb, obviously.
My worry with that is he got called up when they needed the travelling reserve. They called him up. They could have had someone like Basham as the travelling reserve, but they chose Seb and then called him up straight away, which makes me think that Gatland wants him as that Josh Turnbull. I'm not going to play you, but you're going to be holding tackle bags for the whole tournament.
I don't know, but you think of the team that's likely to play now, and yeah, Domachowski and Nazarati are big losses, but I like Barrett, I like Litterick, and those are two of the players that we're likely to see a bit more of, especially Litterick will probably start. I think it's a really good opportunity at tight end to see. Oh, his name's gone from my head, and I feel really
It's going to be
bad.
Kieran Parker or Will Davis King, isn't it?
I
But we
I
haven't
would
seen
like to
Kieran
keep,
Parker since the very first game of the season.
and that's what I say. I want to see Kieran Parker. I
Yeah,
think
I don't want that to be his only involvement as a Cardiff player.
that's basically what I wanted to say. I really think he served his more than his period out, and he deserves another chance, I think. And then you look at the second rows. I think Thornton, brilliant, and then you partner him with a Sebra Turnbull, great. That's not a problem. You've then got a back row which, okay, is missing players, but you've probably got a Tamani in there, you've probably got a Thomas Young in there, and an Ellis Jenkins in there, which is a really good back row, even with Botham's injury. And then, as you mentioned, the three-quarter line, you don't really lose that many. You know, with your sorry, not three quarters, but your centres 10, not 9. You're only losing Thomas from all that, and then your back three, Beetham, probably Summerhill
Yeah,
and
I mean, he
Lane
was fit towards the end before in the Challenge Cup, wasn't he? So it'd be him and then maybe Millard if no one
or
or
Lane.
Lane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So that's not a bad team at all. It's just you look at that. It's a team probably that hasn't played with each other as much as Connacht's 15 have. Is the main point I'd probably make.
yeah, and I think we are we are going to be. I said one benefit for like Scarlets having that pre-season fixture is at least some players got some minutes in their legs. We haven't
Mm.
had that, but then I think with our heavy reliance on the same few props, I think it would have been a mistake to play a game right now. But I do
Mm.
worry that it's been it's been close to 3 weeks now without a game,
Mm.
and we struggle to shake off the rust at the best of times.
I think that's something we'll have to do. We'll have to get someone on because I'd be really interested to know from this
Yeah,
perspective. To see a Josh Turnbull would be a really interesting one to get on, and that's something we'll have to push for. But getting someone on who's both been in the Wales camp and played, but also been in the Wales camp and not played, and then also experienced the flip side of that of not being involved in the Wales camp and that experience of what happens. Are you for 3 weeks training Connacht, or are you thinking, right, we've got to develop players, we're training in a different way, we're training different patterns of play, we're adapting, we're taking advantage of this extra time to develop skills or something else? Is that I'd be interested to know what it is. Is it, when does match preparation come in? Does it come in a week and a half in advance, or does it come in on the week of the game? But yeah,
yeah,
I suppose that changes from team to team and week to week.
yeah, absolutely. So, where do we think? So we sort of know our own strengths and weaknesses fairly well. I said that back row could be interesting. I can't remember if Shane Lewis Hughes had come back for them or
I
turned up.
was, it was one of the names I was, but I don't actually know. I've got to be honest. It's I've got an outstanding email, but I haven't heard a reply on that one, so I'm waiting on the reply on that one before I chase up injury news. But I'm not 100% sure. I know the presser is probably going to be later this week. For anyone interested, I think there is going to be some presses later this week, and Matt Sherratt may be voicing his opinions on certain things this week for anyone to listen to. But yeah, I think it could be. I think if Shane Lewis Hughes is back, that would be a really good boost because one, he offers you, back five cover for a start, but also he was brilliant, particularly pre-season, but also start of the season, and it's really unfortunate he got injured when he did.
Yeah, absolutely. I said it also just helps with that back row because I do feel we as much as I love going back to that sort of Raphael, the Raphael Morgan. Do we have both? Do you play one and the other? I do think to a certain extent having Ellis Jenkins and Thomas Young one does the start, one starts, one finishes is actually quite nice. And then they can, and always having the option to cover there. I do wonder if, I suppose, if like we get Mackenzie Martin back, do they put him in 8 to have Tamani go into the second row to add that extra bit of grunt up in the pack, which I think we do miss when we don't have Teddy available. But also, I think Tamani's been quite good at 8 this season. So
Yeah, I think it all depends on how many second rows you get back. I think, as you say, I'd forgotten about the situation with Jenkins and Rowland, so I think it's unlikely that Cardiff get both second rows, as in Teddy and Seb back. Might not get either, which is frustrating, but that's just the reality of the situation, and the priority has to be on international. And they would want it probably as well to be prioritising and being able to show their opportunity, especially Teddy and Seb having been out of the picture for a bit, so he'd want to be showing what he can do as well. Yeah, I do think this game against Connacht it's the worst time to face Connacht. It really is.
I said,
even though
I think Leinster in 2 weeks as well, which I think is even worse.
Yeah, because Leinster's thirds is just ridiculously strong. But I think I still think it's a winnable game. That's the bizarre thing about playing Connacht. Is it Connacht at home? I think it's always a winnable game. Pardon?
It's anything goes. I mean, I do think some of the players they've got in last off season have really helped them. Like I think JJ Hanrahan's been brilliant for them. In terms of just getting, I think he's helped them win games they wouldn't have won last season. Because I do think as great as players Cartier is, I think JJ Hanrahan just is that bit better at managing. And I think Joe Joyce has been brilliant for them and adding a lot of grunt up front.
Yeah. He's just a big lump, isn't he? As simple as it is, he's a big lump who, okay, occasionally gives away stupid penalties. He does, but he's also got a bit of experience behind him now. Played for a couple of years at Bristol and was a big part of that side. And as captain Bristol in the past, and to be captain of Bristol, you have to be a decent player nowadays. So he's one to look out for. You've got your consistent players, your Dennis Buckleys, your Killian Blades. Those are players that are always going to be there. They've always got a good back three, even with Mac Hansen turning up in a Sexton 60-90 t-shirt, the Ireland game on the weekend. But even without him, you've got strong back three players who are going to finish opportunities if they're given them, and also chase like hell for balls up in the air and be consistent in that element as well. So. But I do think if I had to be pushed on a prediction, I'm going to say Cardiff are going to win. I'd say by 5. I'm not confident, and I don't think it's going to be by much. It won't be by much either way. Let's be honest about it. That's Cardiff season altogether. But I'm going to say Cardiff by 5 because at home, if this was in Galway, I'd back Connacht by 15 to 20. I've got to be honest. They are so strong at home. But I think they're not as good at travelling, and Cardiff are good at home as well. So there's two flip sides of that, and I think I back Cardiff to win by 5 or so.
Yeah, so on the wrap, I went Cardiff by 1 just because I do feel like it's going to be something it's going to be one of those last minute things. But I don't know if it's going to be winning by 1 in a weird sort of like 13-12 game or a 48-47 game. I just don't know. I have no vibe. I mean, it's one of the annoying things we do these pods before we get any sniff of what a team sheet is going to be, and I do think that does sometimes you just look at it and you go, "Oh, yeah, I need to change that prediction." But I mean, there we are. I think I still think it could be quite an enjoyable game.
Yeah, definitely enjoyable game. It's gonna be a good watch, regardless of the result. I think it will be a good watch. I have said that a lot this season, and I feel I've been justified for saying that a lot. Actually, a lot of the games I said would be good games have been good games, just perhaps haven't turned the way that Cardiff wanted. And I do think this is one that can, and hopefully will.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the only game I haven't found enjoyable, well, other than the obvious Dragons at Rodney Parade, because it's just hateful. I cannot like it. I say other than the Quins game, I'd say I think we've been great. At least they've been getting. I felt we've at least had something to cheer every game this season. And again, it feels like deja vu when we talk about like the last two Wales games, but I can
I'm
see
still
where
not
we're
sure.
going, and that I find promising. The question is are we going to be saying the same thing in 12 months' time, or will we kick on? And I think that's going to be the real test.
Yes, but I think that goes for the national side as well.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, I do think we might be saying the same thing for both for a long time, and hopefully, both mirror the paths of each other and help each other in the same way. In that, both start performing, and both start getting the results that some of the performances have justified, and turning those nearlies into victories.
uh, yeah, absolutely. Do you want to have a quick rundown of what's happening in the Premiership over the last week and what's coming up this week?
Yeah, quick rundown of Welsh Prem. So I'll run down fixtures. So last weekend there weren't any Cardiff-related fixtures, but Llandovery did win at Swansea and Newport were victorious at home to RGC. This week, Merthyr are the Thursday night game. They host Newport. And then on the weekend, you've also got Pontypool hosts Cardiff, along with Aberafon at home to RGC, Bridgend at home to Heber Vale, Neath at Llandovery, bottom to top table clash. That one, Swansea and Carmarthen. They are all 2:30 kickoffs on Saturday the 17th. But yeah, Merthyr started all off on Thursday night 7:30. I think that will be on S4C as well, on your online streaming, etc. But the big news, I suppose, from today is the EDC, the situation with the EDC, which obviously we've talked about a few times. Will they? Won't they? Cardiff's regions, Cardiff region clubs initially not wanting to be part of the EDC, and then according to Steph Thomas from Wales Online, Cardiff and Pontypridd performed a U-turn. Pontypridd then said they hadn't on social media. Well, 9 of the 10 clubs that are going to be part of the EDC have been declared. So that is from West Wales. It's I'll start from Newport region. It's Ebbw Vale, Pontypool, and I've forgotten the other one.
Newport.
I feel really bad. Newport, obviously, that would be obvious reasons. I wrote this an hour ago. Then you've got your Ospreys regions. You've got Bridgend, Swansea, and Aberafon, and then going further west, you've got Carmarthen and you've got Llandovery, along with RGC then from North Wales. So that's your 9, which leaves one place open for, well, the 3 Cardiff clubs. So Cardiff, Pontypridd and Merthyr, or Neath. I think it's unlikely to be Neath purely based on, the fact that they haven't been included as one, but also that you've already got your 3 from the Ospreys region, and the initial hope from this, as declared on the when this EDC was declared, I think back in August, was that they wanted to have 2 from each region, and now there aren't 2 from each region. There's only going to be 1 from Cardiff at most. Look, it's been an ongoing saga, to put it politely. There is still an opportunity for one. They want it to be a 10-team league, and they currently have 9, so they want another team to be included, and it's been almost an appeal on their behalf to say that. But if you are one of these Cardiff clubs, what do you do? It's a really difficult situation because they've nailed their colours to a mast to some point, saying they wouldn't be part of it or didn't want to be part of it because of the situation with the salary caps and other concerns they had around it. They perform a U-turn, and then you've got 3 fighting for 1. But on the flip side, I'm really concerned, I must be honest, by if they're not included. Is how serious will this be? Because it is going to be a closed off league. There is no promotion relegation, at least for the first couple of years. So then you're in a situation where there will be no other teams included, or that was the initial plan for a couple of years. So do you then miss the boat? Do you then miss out on the opportunity? And we've seen how Cardiff as a region has produced sort of brilliant players in the last 3-4 years. Your Alex Manns, your Evan Lloyds, your Mackenzie Martins, your Cam Winnets were all playing Cardiff RFC rugby not that long ago. So what happens next is the question, I suppose, and it's a really difficult question to answer. I think I worry about. I think there needs to be a Cardiff representation. It would ideally be more than one club. And I think the WRU were hoping it was going to be more than one club, but unfortunately, those talks haven't worked out by whatever reasoning, and we're left in the situation we are currently, where it's likely to be 3 clubs fighting for one spot.
Well, I mean, I think having a look at some of the bits that came out with the news, you had it looks like Merthyr have no interest. They still stand by. They don't think they can afford to run in that league because the finances WRU demand they have to be able to sustain. So I think they're going to just stay in the Premiership. Pontypridd seems to be a bit of a different one because I see some people saying, "Oh no, they want to," and then others were saying, "No, no, no, it's definitely no. We refuse to take part because of structures and blah blah." So it looks like it's probably going to be just sort of like a rags. I think we went around this the wrong way. I don't think we should have used existing clubs. I think it should have been a sort of regional, basically expanding the regional lane. You have like A and B and RGC, and you have that as just, we're calling this a development side. Yes, we'll have some semi-pros who we might call up from the Premiership, and then they go back down, and you just have them playing on, this tournament's done on other weeks. I think as soon as you had it with these clubs, you're always going to have all the usual arguments that we always have in Welsh rugby. I still think it's been very poorly planned and put together. Like the eligibility criteria seem to only come through in drips and drabs and never fully said it. I think some people, you said when you're talking about it being a closed league, I thought the whole idea is this is going to be a level that sits below the URC, and then that is going to be the lid on the professional game. And then the Premiership is the top of the community game. And so as a semi-pro level, and you might have some players flicking up and down. But does that mean then, if you're in the EDC, do you still have a Premiership team as well? Or is it, or are you taking away from that then? And then does that then, and then if you're someone like Merthyr going, well, hang on, I could be in this 12-14 team Premiership and I could be winning it, and we could have a very successful club, and we could have lots of people coming in and seeing it. Or we could be in this EDC where we get less games. And so I don't know what the rationale is. I'd be very interested to have some of these people come on and say where they're coming from with it.
I must be honest, in practicality, winning the league, if you're Merthyr, winning a league that doesn't include Cardiff, Glendovery, Newport, Swansea, Bridgend, I personally don't think that's. I just don't think it's got as much. Kudos is the wrong word, because there's still credit to winning that league, and I'm not diminishing that whatsoever. But to say that they'd be happy with that, I don't quite see why that would be the case. I think the reasoning has to be financial. The reasoning has to be that. But are they going to get enough finances through the door if these big teams aren't coming over? If those big rivalries that are built up over the last 3-4 years aren't coming down? I don't know. I just don't know. I hope so, for the sake of Merthyr, for the sake of whichever of Pontypridd, Cardiff, and Merthyr aren't included in the eventual EDC, but it's not something that fills me with much hope looking forward, I must be honest, for those clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. I said it all just seems a bit thrown together, and it just really irritates me. It just reminds you whenever they've tried to reform the Premiership and it's ended up with something that no one really wanted, and no one's particularly happy.
I must be honest, in August, I didn't think the idea was as bad as it. As bad
The
as
principle
it was.
sounded good.
The principle sounds good, and it was explained reasonably well at the time. There were certain things that were difficult. Obviously, there was a big focus back then on Llanelli and Llanelli's involvement or non-involvement. But now you're in a situation where you're 6 months down the line. I don't think there was ever any clarity and any the lack of giving the information out to the media or out to the public was a bit weird. I thought with the criteria not being that clear or not given out as clearly as it perhaps could have been. I do think there's been errors along the way with it. It hasn't been helped by. I don't think the WIU would have foreseen what happened with Cardiff, Merthyr and Ponty. I don't think they'd have foreseen that was going to be as much of an issue. It definitely wasn't one that was being discussed in August because I was at that meeting and it was that was not a point that came across or the WIU were willing to mention. There were other clubs mentioned as maybe not making the list, but never Cardiff. Never. I think that was assumed that Cardiff would just make an application, be in, sorted. But hey, it's not the situation we're in now.
Yeah, I mean, watch this space. I'm sure there's going to be many more twists and turns in this particular spin-off of EastEnders drama. That is WRU Street. Unless there's anything else you want to discuss whilst we're on the pod? Do you want to talk about the under-20s briefly?
Yeah, I'll give the under-26 a shout out because I thought their performance, the result wasn't what they'd have hoped for. I think that goes without saying. I think, but a scoreline 28-7. I don't think that's a fair reflection of the game. I think they were more in it than they were. Second half, okay, I think England did pile the pressure on, and eventually the dam broke to some extent. And you could say as well, Wales were always under pressure, but I felt there were a few decisions they didn't get their way that didn't help things. It was it's just certain momentum shifters where you think, oh, if they get a bit more territory, the penalty would have given territory there, and that would have kicked away, and then maybe there could have been a look at a card for one or two instances. And I think I had a bit of frustration with that element of the game. Then you've got the bit that has been clipped up on social media of I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. Personally, I think that's absolutely fine. I really like that. Actually, I think
it
that
made me chuckle. I thought it was great fun.
If you're being childish, treat them like they're being childish. I think that's fair. Players, there's no point having that rough and tumble, which is basically two kids pushing each other in a car park for no reason. Like, there's nothing going to come of it. I really liked it, as you said. I thought it was fun. It was just fun. It was a bit lighthearted. It was a sort of Nigel Owens comment, really. And then but as the game wore on, England's power told. They've got a huge front five. I don't think I've seen. I think Rugby Inside Line or whatever the Twitter is on social, they've become a stan account for England's captain because they go on about him needlessly. Well, not needlessly, but over the top all the time. He's a good player, but I still think there's certain positions which stood out. I thought particularly the centres again, Ackerman and Hennessy. They are special players and will be good players. Walker Price, I really like the look of him, along with the other. Is it Hugh Anderson? Hugh Anderson's the fullback, isn't it? I kept on mixing him up with Patterson for Scotland on the weekend. But Hugh Anderson is a very good fullback for as well, and will be a good player. There's a few others I thought De La Rua played well against his former Corpus Christi alum in the back row, and then Harry's wild. I think my assessment of him so far is he's clearly got something. He's got some talent about him, and he's got some really nice touches, soft passes. Maybe a little bit more game management, but which under-20s 10 doesn't need a bit more game management? I'd like to find one because I've never found one. But he's got some talent about him. It's just about stringing it together in the full 60, 70, 80 performance. And I think that's not yet appeared so far in the two games. Obviously, he was the understudy to Dan Edwards last season and would have learned hordes from him because look how Dan Edwards has taken to regional rugby. But Harry's got talent, and I'm excited to see more of it in the future. And hopefully, as we've mentioned several times, he gets a lot more opportunities in with the Rags and with Cardiff, or even if he needs to with some other clubs in and around there.
Speak. The theme of this pod is we said this before, is talking about the 10 needing to show what you can do for like the full period of time. I said it's been a very deja vu pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, Delarue is looking good. I think he's really exciting. Actually, if he's, I don't. From what I've heard through yesterday is that the likes of Morgan Morse and Harry Ackerman are going back to the clubs from the under 20. So hopefully the same's going to be for Delarue as well, because actually that'll just add some extra strength to who we can bring on.
Let's be honest about it. That's amazing to say for Delarue, isn't it? Like if you're Delarue being spoken of as bringing more strength to a Cardiff side with a back row that includes the like of Ellis Jenkins, Thomas Young, seasoned. Seasoned in some ways.
Seasoned players.
Seasoned regional players who have also played internationally consistently, and in the case of Ellis Jenkins, captain his country. So it's not a bad bit of praise to have. And let's be honest about it, he didn't let Cardiff down at all in the appearances he's had this season. If anything, he was very, very good. So
I don't think he's looked out of place at all.
No, I'm excited to see where he grows because he was playing 6 the other day, and I don't think he's a 6. I think he is a 7, but he didn't look out of his place, and he dovetailed quite well, to be fair. In that back row, and Morse is going to be a special player, but I think Delarue could be as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything more to say? We did get a load of questions in as we were recording, and just after we finished recording last week. Unfortunately, I didn't save any of them because, again, I do have a wife and child to deal with at times.
Yeah, I should have.
Part of the reason we're recording tonight and not on Wednesday is, it is Valentine's Day, so I'm going to very romantically, have a FaceTime with my wife.
I'm not seeing my girlfriend on Valentine's Day, and that's how horrendous. How horrible is that? No, she will be arriving home at some stage. I'm being told. So yeah, that is one of the other reasons we are recording this early. Before we switch off, probably we should mention Wales women's team have named an extended Six Nations training squad. Obviously, that will be cut down pre-Six Nations, but I mainly wanted to mention it because it's really nice to see the players that have been performing so well in the Celtic Challenge get their opportunity, and seeing that development pathway has been successful. The likes of Molly Reardon, who I am convinced was a scrum half not that long ago, who's been brilliant at hooker for Gwalia. Gwen Hopkins likewise.
Will Owen had this conversation with, I think, Andrew Ford on Twitter, and yes, she was playing scrum half for Wales in the WX15.
Yeah, she was a scrum half of the under 18s. I remember she was playing with Maya Dixon, both Pontyclun alumni. I thought I'd get that in there. But she was a brilliant scrum half, and now she's a hooker who was absolutely phenomenal for Gwalia and has been playing well. Then you've got Gwen Hopkins, who she is a star, and honestly, the way I describe her is like Morgan Morse, and I almost feel that's kind of Morgan Morse because she's athletic. She's she's only 18, maybe 19 now. She's only just made the step up from under 18s level, so she's been brilliant in the last couple of weeks for Gwalia. So she's been brilliant. Nell Metcalf as well. Obviously, she's had a bit more experience of international camps and international appearances as well, and then you've got the other players like your likes of Rebecca DeFilippo coming back into the international scene after years out. So it's a really nice mix of players and form players as well. You don't have your Jazz Joyces, you don't have your Kira Bevans, there's no Shauna Harris either, but there are still plenty of talented players, and I tell you what, two players every year I look out for these names, and Celia Tuipulotu and Anisha Butchers. I can't wait to see play rugby again. I've missed not watching enough of them with the women's in the women's Premiership. So 5 weeks of watching them play in the Red of Wales is something I can't wait for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said, hopefully we'll when we get close to the time, we'll do a little bit of preview. Hopefully we can get a guest in. But obviously that's nothing confirmed just yet. So other than just a reminder that if you've liked this, please do share it with your friends. Shout out to Heath Hospital ICU, because apparently they all listen to the pod. And the rap as well. So thank you for your support. Please do share with your friends. Keep subscribe, and just let us know what you think of the pod. If there's anything you think you'd like us to do before you say get in any of the CEO or the board on, we are trying, but just by the nature of them as people, they're not necessarily the most media public facing. So we will try and get something in that way. So all that's left me to say is thank you very much for listening, and as always, thank you, Carwyn, for putting up with my ramblings whilst you bring some actual insight into the pod.
I think it was the other way around this week. I went on a ramble about Scotland game, let's not forget. But yeah, no, thanks very much to you as well.
And once again, ta-ra.
Thank you for listening to the Cardiff Central podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.